Damian Lillard and Chris Paul are two of the best and most beloved veterans in the NBA. They have both enjoyed massively successful and Hall of Fame-worthy careers. Nonetheless, they have been unable to win NBA titles, but many are rooting for them to get that ring finally. The Athletic recently polled All-Stars and asked them, among other things, which players they would most like to see win a title. Paul and Lillard tied for first place, ahead of Russell Westbrook and others. Colin Sexton said he wants Paul to win because he's one of those guys who comes in and does the work and never complains. And Lillard is just too talented to go without a title. On February 27th, he became the first player in history to score 70 points in under 40 minutes of play. Let's start with Dame. The man is a 7-time All-Star and 6-time All-NBA selection. Despite being mid-career, the 2013 Rookie of the Year was even selected to the NBA's 75th anniversary team. The Athletic rate him as the 68th greatest player ever, and some of the guard's best basketball lies ahead. Always a fabulous scorer, in 2018, Dame began to develop those extra long shots that had become his calling card. He remembers the Blazers coach at the time, Terry Stotts, was unhappy. He would put his hand on the scorer's table, put his head back, or put his hands up. You know, the stuff you can't hide. It's just your natural reaction. But he persisted despite early struggles because I believed in it, Lillard said. Because when I shoot those deep shots, it doesn't feel like a hard shot for me. But the lack of a title hangs like a black cloud over his storied career. And though Lillard tries to pretend it doesn't bother him too much, it remains a highly sensitive point. He said, "They'll never give me credit for what I've actually done, unless I come out here and win a championship for Portland. They better pray that I don't win the championship for the Blazers." Most analysts do not believe Lillard's abilities prevent him from winning a coveted title. The guard isn't just some stat-padding shooter. Dame does not choke in the big games. He loves to score when it matters most. Lillard has more go-ahead field goals than any other active player in the final minute. He's a born winner. That applies in the playoffs as well. Indeed, the guard vastly outperforms his regular stats in the playoffs. That was particularly notable in the 2021 playoffs. He had 6 more points and extra assists per game. His performances against the Nuggets were nothing short of spectacular. But the Blazers went down in 6 games. It was the 4th time in 5 years they failed to pass the first round of the playoffs. Yet, it is hard to say Dame hasn't carried his weight. He scored 2 series game-winning shots in the playoffs, and there are likely more to come. Instead, the main barrier has been his loyalty to the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard was drafted 6th overall by the team back in 2012 and has never put on another professional uniform. And don't get it twisted, Portland has put together some decent teams over the years, but they have never secured a legitimate second superstar or a first-rate supporting cast. Indeed, for some years, it has appeared that Dame has carried the team on his own. But none of this has dented Lillard's admirable loyalty to the team, the fans, and the franchise that has loved and supported his development. Indeed, in July 2022, he signed a new contract with the Trail Blazers. And trust us, it wasn't for the lack of other suitors. But the point guard said winning with another team wouldn't be as fulfilling. That was almost certainly a jab at players like James Harden, Kevin Durant, and yes, Chris Paul, who have joined more than one super team in pursuit of titles. But Lillard did note that he expected Portland to remain competitive, adding, "As long as I have an opportunity to do it, a good opportunity to compete for a title, I'm willing to go out." Dame and his agent Aaron Goodwin pointed to some trades and moves Portland made as signs that they plan to compete. For example, the arrival of Jeremy Grant from Detroit. But while the power forward is an excellent player, it pales compared to the moves others in the West have made. For example, the Suns trade for Kevin Durant or the Mavericks nabbing Kyrie Irving. And the numbers don't lie. Despite a series of spectacular performances from Lillard, Portland currently sits in 11th place in the West with a poor .475 record. Honestly, it seems unlikely that Dame will ever win a title with the Blazers. This year is already a done deal. and a turnaround in contention for next year seems like a very slim possibility. The All-Star guard will be 34 when his contract is up, so Lillard may face a difficult decision between ending his career in Portland without a ring and joining the new super team project. As far as we know, putting together a bunch of stars doesn't always work either. The career of Chris Paul is a strong indication of that. Why Chris Paul hasn't won a title yet? Since his rookie year in 2005, Paul has had one of the most impressive point guard careers in NBA history. CP3 has 12 All-Star selections under his belt and 10 All-NBA picks. Paul has led the NBA in assists 5 times and steals 6 more. He is currently third all-time in assists, behind only Jason Kidd and John Stockton. By the way, the top 3 for all-time steals are identical to the assists. But mostly, Chris is known for being one of the most challenging competitors in the league, never coasting on his considerable God-given talent. CP3 is one of the fiercest and most effective defenders in the league. Therefore, he has made the all-defensive team 9 times. It is no wonder the Athletic rate has him as number 30 in their all-time best player list. The irony is that although there are no rings on Paul's fingers, he has turned several teams he played for into contenders. The point guard was drafted by the New Orleans Hornets, where he also won Rookie of the Year in 2005. He led them to the playoffs 3 times. But a trade to the Clippers in 2012 put CP3 on a contender for the first time. The results were unsatisfactory. The Clippers made the playoffs every year from 2012 to 2017, but kept losing, sometimes to seemingly inferior opponents. Part of it was the lack of good supporting cast. The team they called Lob City had incredible talent. Paul joined number 1 draft pick Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan to put together arguably the most exciting team in the NBA. But though we all loved watching those 3 take to the court, they never made it past the second round of the playoffs. Some of it was because the Clippers needed a third scorer on the team aside from Blake and CP3. Jordan was a tremendous rebounder but didn't provide the needed firepower. LA tried to fill the gaps with over-the-hill veterans Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce, and Glenn Davis, but that was never going to cut it. And some issues had nothing to do with basketball. The owner of the team, Donald Sterling, was forced to sell the team for racist comments he made in 2014. Injuries were a constant issue. And of course, the Rockets, Spurs, and Warriors had excellent teams in those years. But the bottom line is that Paul was the leader of that team and failed to make a deep playoff run with the Clippers. And his lack of leadership off the court was a significant part of the problem. The players in that team just didn't like each other, and CP3 could not bring them together. Unfortunately, those problems continued when Paul was traded to the Houston Rockets. On paper, they were another major contender, but instead of leading, CP3 was embroiled in a beef with Houston star James Harden. Paul disliked how Harden hogged the ball and did not participate in the offensive scheme. After 2 years of losing to the Warriors in the playoffs, the two were reportedly not on speaking terms. As a result, the point guard was traded to Oklahoma, and after a year there, CP3 was traded again to Phoenix. The Suns have built their team around CP3, giving him complete control of the offense. Devin Booker may score more points, but Paul is the boss. The veteran reached the NBA Finals for the first and so far only time in his career in 2020-21. And when the Suns went up 2-0 against the Bucks, it looked like Chris had finally broken the cure. But Giannis and the boys came roaring back, and Paul became the first player to lose 4 series when his team was ahead 2-0. When a great player has no titles, you might expect them to choke in the playoffs. But CP3 has had some of the best playoff performances in living memory. He is the only player to have 3 playoff games with 15 points, 15 assists, and no turnovers at all. Paul also has the all-time record for playoff assists. His main problem has always been that penchant for personal problems. So far, we haven't seen much of that with the Suns. CP3 seems to have learned from his mistakes and has developed a strong relationship with Devin Booker. but adding Kevin Durant to the team adds another superstar with his share of ego to the mix. Paul can't afford to get this one wrong. The point guard will turn 38 in May 2023. His passing is as sharp as ever, but there is a decline in his scoring, almost inevitable at this age. He may have another chance next year, but the odds will be lower with every year KD and CP3 age. There is no question that the Suns now have the talent to win the title. They are currently behind only the Celtics as the favorites. But Paul's history shows that to win, he has to do two things. First, allow someone else to be the number one option. CP3 has never been able to take a team to the promised land as its leader. They never got close when he was the top guy in New Orleans, the Clippers, and the Thunder. Second, he must avoid animosity with teammates. If so, Lillard is a long shot at winning a title, but Paul has a great shot. He just has to overcome all of his demons. No biggie.